The greatest shame of all is that all 4 billion human beings on earth aren't here today. They're going to miss it. They're not going to get it. They're not going to understand why they're in such conflict personally, in the family, in the block, in the town, nationally, internationally. Because they are not here this morning, they won't know what they could have known in order to straighten out their individual lives and therefore put something good out into the world, something decent, something pure, something healing. You are here this morning. You personally, each one of you who are here now, will hear this morning what can start to change you in a way which you cannot now imagine, and you mustn't try to imagine it. You will hear the pure fact that most of you and most of your inward thoughts will want to resist, but you won't even know you're resisting. This is the problem of coming to a truth class where you're hearing something so overwhelmingly healing that you do not understand your own personal unseen resistance to it. So your part here this morning is to be aware of yourself as well as being aware of me talking to you, so that you can see how you are taking what I am saying to you. If you don't see it, you won't make a start. Now, this is the greatest opportunity of your life, all of you here this morning. If you go out of here and don't come back, you'll never find it again. This is it. Whether you know it or not, I am telling you. Now, you listen to what I'm telling you because I know it's the truth, and you don't know what the truth is, and don't you dare, for your sake, listen to what has been wrecking you in yourself, your own, what you call your self-righteousness, your pretense of knowing. You don't know. You don't understand anything about anything in life. This is it. And I want you, for your sake, if you noticed a little bit of resistance to what I just said, you're saying, what is he yelling at me like that for? For heaven's sake, wake up! Stop wanting what you want. What you want has given you the kind of a life that you have seated there right here this morning. And you know better than anyone on this earth what a wretched, miserable, sick, scared, terrified life it is. Oh, what an opportunity this morning. Don't you dare miss it. And I tell you, for your sake and yours and yours and yours. One of the most popular and beloved themes in fiction, in novels, short stories, movies, television stories, one of the most popular themes is that of a lost world. You've read them, you've seen them. Off somewhere on some remote island or some corner of a continent somewhere, there's a lost world that modern civilization hasn't found, but there it is, and they have their own little ways of living, and they have their own little religions, and their way they grow food. They have their own little life, and usually they have ancient monsters there, right? Yeah, so you caught you there. King Kong, etc. And as I said the other night, if King Kong ever comes to this class, he's going to have to shave his beard too. Now, this being a lost world, nobody knew about it except the people living in it. And so, as the story develops, you've seen them. They go in their modern airplanes or boats or submarines, and they finally find the lost world and are astonished and amazed that all this time, unknown to themselves, living in the United States or Europe or wherever, all the time, here is this little secret kingdom off where everything was different and everyone was happy there. Everything was pure. No one hurt each other. No one hit each other. And so the lost world is found by the discoverers. Now, spiritually speaking, this is an accurate description of what exists in this life. There is a new world. There's a lost world that you can find. You do not know anything about it, and you can't find it with your intellect, because if you use your own thoughts, you'll just find yourself. When you use your mind, you only find yourself and go right back to the same repetitious, boring, worried, shameful, shamed behavior. I tell you, therefore, that each one of you in this room whose heart wants to become fully right can discover this new world of living in which you're not at the mercy of yourself anymore, which you now are. You're not at the mercy of other people. You're not at the mercy of their scowls, of their critical remarks. You're all at the mercy of someone, aren't you? You're all at the mercy of the horrible news you see on television, aren't you? Aren't you? Why do you like it? Why don't you wake up and say, I'm not going to do it anymore? Well, the reason you have not done it is because no one ever told you that you don't have to put up with it anymore. And now you've been told. You've been told that you don't have to fawn. You don't have to cringe before people. You don't have to be afraid anymore. With the Spirit of truth guiding your life, you can be one with this new world itself. And all the time it took, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years it took for you to discover this new higher world, oh, you'll say, that was the most valuable years of my life. And as a matter of fact, it was the only valuable years of my life, because I wasted my life before I came here and heard these truths that are startling. Of course they're startling. Already you're startled. Already you're wondering whether you want it or not. Don't listen to yourself a second more. Otherwise, you will be stuck. You will be stuck with yourself for the rest of your life. Can you think of anything more horrible than that? Than you to be you for the rest of your life. We'll give you a new you. Truth will give you something else to think from, to live from. And all that self-lacerating, self-harming sarcasm that you have inside of you, all your cleverness and smartness, which you feel compelled to put out into the world as a false protection, all that will be gone, and you won't ever again suffer from yourself anymore. Now that's what you can have. To find the new world, to explore it, to take its riches, there's one requisite, one requirement, and this is the more important part of the talk this morning. In order to find this new world, you have to individually go and search for it, and that means to find the new world, you must understand the old world. Someone starts from the United States, and there's a far-off island in the South Pacific, this Paradise Island, this new world. Then you have to go all across the United States. You have to travel through other countries, perhaps other islands, civilizations, in order to get there. You have to understand how to travel to the island, the new world, in other words. And this is what we're going to do this morning. I'm going to tell you a fairly lengthy story. And the purpose of it is, and you'll see many purposes, the purpose is to make you acquainted with your present world so that you want nothing more to do with it. You love this world because that's your present nature. You love yourself, in other words. Well, don't you love to quarrel? Don't you love to criticize people? Why do you do that? Why do you destroy yourself with criticizing and hating and sniping at people? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because you're a pathetic human being. And a pathetic human being is a danger to himself and to everyone else. Oh, where we're going this morning. You'll find yourself a million miles higher than where you are now if you release yourself to the healing truth. So we're going to try to understand, and you can do it, understand something you don't as yet know about this society that you live in, this world of politics, this world of religion, this world of citizens, of everything. You're going to understand something about it that you never knew before. And at first, the awareness of it will be dim, because I know this is new to you. And I know how your minds are operating, even while I'm talking to you now. I know exactly what you're doing. You're going to understand the world, and that understanding of it, oh, will you want to leave it and get off to that new world, that Paradise Island, where you're really a free, happy, good, decent human being. So good inwardly, not outwardly. The hypocrites can be outwardly good, but so good inwardly that you would never ever think of hurting another human being again. Which you have done, by the way, all your life, because you've given them the self-hurt and projected it outer world with your depression, with your gloom, with your lies. You've hurt everybody you've ever met because you first hurt yourself. Now, isn't that a terrible thing to do to you and therefore to other people? All right, we're going to take a specific look at this world. Once upon a time, there was a town, and it was called Anytown, because it is any town, anywhere, any place. And this town had 15, 20,000, 30,000 people in it. And at a distance, there were other large cities and all that throughout the whole region of the country. And just about 2 or 3 miles from Anytown was a lunatic asylum, a place where mental patients lived and stayed. Here it was, big white buildings, nice, pretty broad, green lawns, fence around it, little pathways where visitors could come and walk with their relatives inside. An insane asylum, mental hospital. They give it different names, different times to kind of lower the shock. You notice that there are no more prisons, just correctional institutions. Society plays with words in order to deceive and divert. This is an insane asylum, a lunatic house. Residence for those who couldn't take care of themselves. Now, if you went in there, walked around the wards and the halls and the yards, you'd see all kind of people who were mentally sick. Some would stand and stare at the walls, others would run around, others would be exercise fiends, others would wear odd clothes as much as they could, do all sorts of things which people who were alienated from themselves do. Now, this is a pretty big place, and we're going to zero in on one particular ward, big hall, where there are perhaps 100 inmates, both men and women. So they went about their business, and they had their little recreation hall. And one day, while they were at recreation and playing cards, whatever they wanted to do, drawing pictures, playing the guitar, whatever, one day a new inmate arrived. And the minute he walked into the room, all the other 100 inmates sensed something different about him. They didn't know what it was. They didn't understand it. But he looked physically quite normal. Average height, average weight, average appearance. Looked like he could blend in any crowd and you'd never notice him. But they noticed him. They noticed something different about his eyes. They could detect something that was not in the eyes of the rest of the people that they'd seen outside, something quite different. And this new inmate, patient, call that what you want, came in, and you ever notice this in a crowd? There's always the leader who immediately takes over, and others crowd around him for one reason or other, sick reasons or healthy reasons, usually psychopathic reasons. And so they crowded around this man, and you know, if you could have seen this man, this new arrival, you would have known that he knew what would happen. He knew himself. He knew what he was. He knew who he was. He knew who he was, and you'll find out later who he was. He came in and immediately started crowding around, started admiring. You want another piece of cake? Applauding him whenever he made a brilliant remark of some kind. Finally, after several weeks, he got in with him pretty close, and he was now the leader. And that's what he said. You want to call me something, call me the leader. And they even tried to investigate him by some of the patients who worked in the offices part-time. They even looked up his record, but the record was just average. He was born in a certain place, born in Michigan, say, and got in trouble with the law at a certain time, finally was put in for misbehavior that society couldn't tolerate because he was hurting people. They really didn't know much about him, but they knew one thing. You know what they knew? Now remember, these are patients in a hospital. They wanted to follow him, and he knew it. One day, he got them all around the circle and away from the guards and the doctors in the institution. And he started telling them something about themselves. He told them how persecuted they were. He told them that they were as good as anybody. Even though they were in a mental hospital, they were as good, as intelligent, as sane as anybody. He started telling them all the things that mentally sick people want to hear, telling them all the lies they wanted to hear. And oh, this is what they'd been waiting for. They wanted more of themselves. Do you understand that? That mental sickness is hungry for more mental sickness. That's their food. Therefore, anything that would have to do with sanity would be rejected by them because it's too strange, too odd. They want to be what they are and increase what they are to give them an increased false feeling of life. Oh, did their admiration for the leader increase. One day he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're ready. You know what we're going to do? This may surprise you, ladies and gentlemen," he said. "You know what we're going to do? We're going to take over Anytown. You know, some of us, or many of us, are allowed day passes to go in and walk around, do some shopping for the institution, do little things like that. And if we don't get a pass, we can sneak out. You know how easy it is to fool the people in charge here. Very easy. They're not as smart as they think they are." And they gasped. "What did you say?" He said, "We're going to take over the town. I mean that literally. You, right here, you're going to be elected the officials of Anytown, down the road here a little bit. You're going to be in charge of The minute he said you're going to be in charge of other people, they jumped like that. Do you understand that? Do you understand that sick minds, the only way they can get away from their pain and feel right is to be in charge of someone else and be cruel and vicious and self-righteous? Do you understand that? He was appealing to everything that was evil, that was sick in them, and of course they fell for it. Sickies always fall for sick leaders. So he gave them the ground rules, the town rules. What you do when you go into town, remember, you're to appear absolutely normal, dress like they do, talk like they do. You can even join the clubs they do, blend into the background. Don't seem to be different at all. After a while, they get acquainted with you. You are actually going to run for public office, and I guarantee you will be elected. I know some things you don't know. Oh, he said, the reason I know these things is because I've been a leader other places for many, many thousands of years. They said, "Yeah, but look, wait a minute, Mr. Leader. We're inmates of the institution, and we're going to go in town and become known. They're going to find out. They can match us. Some of the personnel at the hospital will see us, and they'll say, 'What are you people doing? Run for all you belong in the nut house.'" He said, Come on. I know a lot better, more than you do. I know these people. I know what's going to happen. I can predict it exactly because it always happens in the same way. Now you just listen to me and obey me. And you'll find out. You'll be the leaders. You'll be in charge of things. You'll get good salaries, good pensions, all the things that you want. And they say, come on. We belong in the mental hospital. What are you talking about? Just wait. You listen to me. Don't listen to your own fears. Listen to me. So what happened? When they got passes, or when they snuck out, they'd go into town, they blended in. They got acquainted with the housewives down at the market, the women did. The men got acquainted down at the garage, down at the grocery market, wherever. They got acquainted, and they got casually accepted. You know how you meet someone, you see them, nothing bad happens, so you casually accept them. And that's what happened. This went on for quite a while, the infiltrating process. And they were surprised at how successful it was, how that there was no opposition to it. And the leader said, "See, I told you, but just wait. The best is yet to come." Came a day of the election, for the yearly election of city officials. And all the inmates went up put themselves on the ballot. Scared because they kept on telling the leader, "But look, they're going to find us out. We're not citizens of this town. We're citizens of the insane asylum. They're going to find us out. What do we do when that happens?" "I will handle it. In fact, it's already handled, as you will see." "All right, so we'll put our names on the ballot," which they did. And would you like to know what happened? They were all elected. All 20 of them who ran for office were elected to office, and all the 20 townspeople were defeated. Their minds were in a state of incredibility. How could this happen? That it happened because of the leader, we know, but I don't understand. All right, now came the big crisis. They were recognized. Indeed, what they feared did happen. The personnel at the hospital, the doctors and so on, recognized. They saw it in the paper. There it was, the paper delivered to the insane asylum. This man was elected. All these 10 men, 10 women were elected to public offices. And oh, were they scared. The inmates were scared. Now, I guess that's the end of our fun. It was great. Whoa, we were somebody for a while. Big town meeting was called. Big hall, city hall. Hundreds of citizens of the town packed the place. And all the elected officials were there. Here they were in their suits and their ties, and the women in their pretty dresses. These are the inmates. They were all kind of sitting together over to one side, fearful at what was going to happen to them. And you know what they did? Let's see if you can understand this. In their fear of being exposed, they kept physically looking over to their leader, and looking up a little bit. Please, what do we do? What happens next? What do we got ourselves in? Help us, you. And also the hostility. You got us into this. You better get us out of this. What are they going to do to us? They're going to put us back there and lock the door to her, put us in a cell and lock the door. You better help us. They kept looking toward the leader. The speeches began in the city hall. One man got up and he said, "What is going on here? We have unknowingly elected lunatics to run our government, to run this town for the next year. What's going on?" A woman got up and she said, "We can't believe it. What's happened? We've actually elected people whose minds are wrong. We put them in charge of things." This went on for a while, and there was applause every time one of these anti-lunatic speeches ended. People applauded. Now you listen with extra care to what I'm going to tell you next. If you get this will be one of your great perceptions of human society as it actually is, not as you think it is, as it actually is, which is a long trip toward the new world that you can find. All the speakers yelled against, screamed against, criticized the lunatics who had been elected to office. And then there was a pause. The anti-lunatics had exhausted themselves for the moment. There was a pause. And then another man who had never spoken before stood up, and he was an impressive-looking man, and he was dressed in a suit and a tie, and he had club rings and little buttons on himself to show that he belonged to many organizations. And he was very fluent, a very good speaker, and very positive in his manner. And let me tell you what he said. He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, do you know what you're doing? Don't you know that those people who inhabit the rest home outside of town, don't you know that they are human beings too? Don't you know that they have their rights? What are you doing denying them their rights? They ran on the ballot. They were legally elected. They're part of our society, part of our group. What are you doing slandering them like that? The Bible I read says to love all of mankind, and what are you doing hating them like that?" I say that these people who have been elected remain elected, and they be given a chance too to have a hand in their own affairs as well as in the community affairs at large. Another stunned silence. People, they looked at it, they didn't know what to do. Then a woman stood up, and she was the parallel of the man in appearance. Very forceful. She dressed right, conservatively, but nicely. And she was glib too, and she stood up and turned toward the first man, the man who just, and she applauded. "You know, you're right. You have shown genuine compassion for human beings. I second the motion. These people should be elected. They should be given a chance too. Now, how many of you know what the chief characteristic of sheep is? Follow the leader, you know? All you have to do is have the Judas goat with a bell on out in front, and all the sheep follow to slaughter, right? See, human beings are incredibly stupid. They already now, everyone in the room is feeling guilty. That's right. God says to love everybody. God says to give them a chance too. And you can picture it, can't you? I know you can. Little by little, they looked around, and finally, a second man started applauding. Look, and a woman saying, "Oh, he's applauding. I guess he'll applaud." Everybody looked around. Pretty soon, the place was in an uproar of approval, of love for all mankind by all means. The lunatics should be in charge of the town. And they all voted by voice vote. Let them in. We do indeed love everybody. Everyone, regardless of their private life, regardless of their mental, emotional state, there are no barriers before God. All men are equal before God. And so they let them come in and let them be in charge of things. That evening, later on, back at the asylum, back at the ward, the elected officials and the leader got together. And the leader was sitting in front of them, and they were out there. And there was a mixture of a stunned look on their face, of delight, of admiration for the leader, of disbelief, of great joy. Finally, someone broke the silence. "You're right. You were right all along. We wouldn't have believed it unless we had seen it for ourselves. And I want to tell you that you don't see it. You and your phony love for all mankind, you are loving people who are trying to destroy you, and you don't have the intelligence to see it." That means you don't have the love of God at all. You have the love of your own egotism inside of you. And you had better start right now to see the difference in it before you wreck yourself anymore. And they all looked at the leader, and you know what he said? He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have the most marvelous news for you can imagine. This is just the start. Anytown is Anytown. We go to the next one, a larger one. Pretty soon we're going to take over the whole world this way." They nodded their heads because they knew how to do it. And they went down the rules. Let's see, how did we do it? Make people feel guilty. Make them think that human nature is basically good. Be very careful you don't hurt anyone's feelings, but say you love everybody. And try to convince yourself that you're loving in spite of the fact that you're hating. They went over it, and they knew that they would succeed again. And I will tell you that they continued, and they are continuing to succeed every day, including right at this very moment, somewhere. Oh, not somewhere, somewheres. Thousands of places, which is why you live in a world that terrifies you. And one or two citizens of Anytown who didn't join in the applause, you know what they did? They went home scared. They sensed what was happening. And you had better be one of those citizens of Anytown who sees what is going on, so that you don't live in dreamland anymore, that there are good people in this world, because there isn't. There are evil people pretending to be good people. Finally, the leader stood up and he said, "Thank you for your cooperation. We have succeeded overwhelmingly. I will now appoint several of you to be my agents here on earth while I return to my headquarters." And he said, "By the way, have any of you guessed who I am?" And their heads nodded a little bit. And he said, "Yes, I know you're sensing it. You're afraid to say it. I'm the devil. I'm Satan himself from hell. And I come up here quite regularly with these special projects to help destroy the world. And I'm doing pretty well, am I not?" And all the lunatics nodded. And do you understand, incidentally, that there's no difference in the lunatics inside this asylum and the lunatics of any town? The only difference in anyone was those two or three people who went home because they began to sense what was going on. All the rest are completely mad. There is no difference. I tell you, there is no difference except those in the lunatic asylum, their insanity shows itself physically outwardly. Those who are in Anytown who are equally insane, they have it inside where you can't detect it. We'll help you in this class to detect madness in human beings. One short word on what you have to do, because our time is almost up. What you have to do to achieve all this is to start right now. Now, I'm going to tell you to do something which you in your dumbness think you already do. I'm going to tell you that effective right now, you have to start taking responsibility for the results of your own actions. Now you don't. You're wild, you're reckless, you're mad. You want to shout at someone, you want to hurt their feelings, you want to be sneering and sarcastic, and you won't take responsibility for it, and that's the reason you continue to punish yourself. If you can begin to see that you always pay for what you do against first yourself and anyone else, that will be the beginning of the change, and you'll be one of these people who understands what's going on in this world, and that will take you toward the new world. Repeat. You must now begin to see that you do not take responsibility for your own actions. You just want to be brutal. You want to be vicious. And you pay for it. I want you to see that you pay for it. If you do that, you'll begin to get insight into yourself. And that insight into yourself will begin to be a long step toward the new world. Take all this in. Think about it. You won't be able to forget this talk. None of you will ever be able to forget this talk. It will be inside you. Use it. Be on the side of the truth that you've heard this morning. That will change you. That will make you different. That will make you a truly decent, good human being. And you'll also have eternal life. Think of a flood, a raging flood. You've seen them in newsreels, and maybe you lived somewhere where the rivers overflowed and flooded on down. What's the nature of a flood? Mindless, furious, involved only with itself, completely unconscious of anything outside of itself. All a flood knows is itself, destroying, carrying away everything in its path. It's not selective, it has no conscience, doesn't care how good or bad you are. It is a fantastic mechanical force that cannot think, cannot see. A flood knows nothing but itself. Now, switch to your mind, the way your mind works. The flood of raging, thoughtless thoughts, unable to see anything outside of itself. All it has is its own two banks, your flood of thoughts in your mind. Can't see anything outside of what's in front of it, but it has no power to reason as to what is in front of it. It goes over everything. Now, the single most important thing for you to know at the start, for what we're talking about, is that a flood cannot see. It can't judge. It cannot know. It cannot separate good from bad, up or down, or anything else. It is involved only with itself. Therefore, you try sometime standing on the bank of a raging flood and wagging your finger at it and saying, mustn't do that, mustn't carry away people and property, or giving it a spiritual lecture on how it's violating laws by hurting people, or by swearing at it, cursing it. Nothing's going to happen, is it? Now, does this begin to explain to you why you were incapable of stopping the flood of your own thoughts, your own mind? No matter what you do, the flood is advising itself, which is meaningless and nonsensical. Anything done within the flood has no meaning at all. You therefore must become fully conscious of the fact that while you're in the flood, you don't know you are. You don't understand that you are. No one can tell you anything. No one can give you moral advice. Don't you know, sir, that it's wrong to hurt that woman like that? He doesn't hear you. Now look where we've arrived already, at a seemingly hopeless position. And it is hopeless if this is what you have unconsciously sworn to be loyal to for the rest of your life. It's absolutely hopeless. You're just a danger. You're something, if I'm talking about you, there's something that the only thing decent people want to do is avoid. Now look, I have to go back because I know how your minds are working already. You think you're not part of the flood? You are the flood. You can't think. You can't be outside the flood. You can't be on the bank yet and look at it and put your hand up to your forehead and say, what on earth am I involved in? You can't do that. You're not shocked yet. You're too sweet. You're still loving. You want to kid yourself into thinking that if you kid yourself long enough that kidding will turn into a reality. You've got a shock ahead of you you don't know anything about. Matter of fact, if you want to know, the shock happens to you all day long. This is that low-level grumbling that we've talked about so much. Looking suspiciously around, wondering who's going to hurt you, who's going to attack you next, and then doing the wrong thing with that by seizing onto your imaginary protections of a religious quotation or distracting yourself in some way or other. The flood, therefore, of your thoughts does not understand itself, which is the reason why, while I've been talking to you, not much has penetrated. Because if you knew it instantaneously, saw the whole thing, that would mean automatically that you'd be on the bank looking at it and being shocked at what you have been all your life. Now you still approve of yourself. Now you're so gentle with yourself. I'm okay. It's you saying that I'm okay that is keeping you sick, and you are sick. You know what the future of a flood is, by the way? I'll tell you what it is. The future of a flood, after it's done all its damage and had its fun of living according to its preferred nature, the future of a flood is to disperse. And where it was 20 feet deep, it gets 10 feet deep, and then 5 feet deep, and then 1 inch deep. And finally it fades altogether. I'm telling you something very profound. A flood finally disappears because it had nothing but a mechanical life unto itself, a mechanical destructive force. You want to know what's going to happen to you in the future? One of two things. You're either going to remain a destructive, hurtful, self-righteous, lying flood who will eventually have no life at all, or you will understand with a right emotion what we're talking about and come here to every meeting and say, please teach me how to scramble out of the flood, to not be it anymore, and to get up on the bank and to look back and be horrified at what I have been and what I've done all my life while lying about it and calling it nice. You can have one or the other. I know what I'm talking about. And you kind of sense it too. There's something in you that kind of senses the truth of what you've heard, because you know that you don't have life now. You have repetition. You wreck one house out there representing someone's life just by being what you are. You don't have to say anything to hurt anyone. You don't have to do anything. You hurt them just by being you and walking around. That's all it takes. When is the last time one of you in this room ever gave another human being part of your loftier nature? Never, because you've never had it to give. Then if you never gave them that, what did you give them? You gave them the flood. How unkind. How cruel. Oh, and what a loss to you that you could have had something else, that you could have known what it means to be free of yourself. You don't know that now. You think you know because you quote, and because you think, and because you have false pleasures. Aren't you willing to go through the spiritual phases necessary? Aren't you willing to submit to something other than the flood in order to have something different from the misery of being caught in it? You know very well, and observing the flood of your own thoughts, which you hide. We know that. You hide it from everybody, don't you? You make clever remarks, jokes, and you laugh up here. Don't you think we know? Look, we know what you're really like. And we're trying to tell you, not to ridicule you, not to make you feel bad, but to point out to you what you've been missing all your life. Because you've preferred your mental friends who lie to you, and your friends and associates out in the world who appears to be so dynamic and on the way somewhere. You can actually observe, if you're alert, a person. Maybe you've done this and it's not been conscious to you. Make it conscious. Have you ever known someone when he was, say, 20 years old? It could be relative or friend or whatever. And then you knew him when he was 30, 40, 50, on up. Or maybe you started when he was 40 and 60, 70, 80 or whatever. Inside of you, unknown to yourself, you had a bit of perception of knowledge. And that perception said, wow, he's growing older and more defeated. She with her phony acts of pretending to be happy and to be going somewhere, boy, she's growing thinner psychologically. The flood is going down inches and by feet, until finally, when they get too much older, complete defeat and complete despair. You were not put on this earth to evolve like that. God has prepared a way for you to grow stronger, not weaker. Ah, yes. To grow younger, not older. Younger meaning being close to the timeless state, which is always youthful, always energetic, because that's its nature. What a tragedy that billions of people have chosen to grow old and feeble and sad and defeated and a burden to everyone else, like they have been a burden to themselves all their life. Is that what you want? Come on, now you decide right now. Is that what you want? For heaven's sake, scream no. It isn't what you want. And I hope that you have been a little bit shocked into seeing what you have chosen to do, which is to stay in the flood and get knocked around. Too lazy to make an effort to climb up on the bank and look back and see where you've been. Too much in love with getting hurt by bumping into the rocks on your way down the river. You've got hurt by those rocks, haven't you? You didn't see them. You're living in a dream, even walking, flooding down the river, and you get bumped on the head by the rock, your foot gets hurt. You cry and scream, and in your ignorance, your flood of ignorance, ignorant desires, for example, in your ignorant flood, you never question anything. You just go and get battered around from one rock to the next. Think of the phrase ignorant desire, ID, new kind of ID. Ignorant desire, that is what is the flood of society, of humanity. And it's your flood too. Ignorant desire, and I've described it before. It just goes, doesn't think. It doesn't wonder what is going on. You just get into it. And ignorant desire, going from one ignorant desire to the next, one ID to the next. That's the story of humanity's life. Imagine yourself watching a movie with a friend or two. Want to know how your mind works? When I said, imagine yourself watching a movie on television, say, with a friend, that put in your romantic minds an opposite sex watching the movie with a nice girl or a nice boy, right? And then when I said, or two or three people, that wrecked it, didn't it? Okay, just you and the boy and girl. See, you don't think as you hear. Think when you hear. All right. You're watching the movie and you're restless. How many of you are restless? You know, wander around up here physically. You don't know what to do with yourself. So you're restless while your partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, is watching, wife, husband, watching the movie. But you're restless because, you built yourself, hey, it's a great movie. Look at the great stars and star-studded production, 10 big-time, all-time great. You talk yourself into how great it's going to be at 8 o'clock on Sunday night, right? You can hardly wait. And that's what makes your day worthwhile, looking forward to it, right? And so you can hardly wait. So you turn it on 5 minutes before to make sure you don't miss the opening lines and all that. And you're all excited. And then something happens. You can't convince yourself that it's that good. It goes on for a while. And so you get up and you wander around the room, you go get a snack. How many of you go get a snack? How many of you go back more than once? Let's see the three-timers. Let's see the all-nighters. You do that several times, 20 times during the movie, still trying to pretend that you're interested. You ever done that? Sat and watched a TV show and your mind was off in New Zealand? You couldn't get interested in it. All right. And afterward, your movie partner asked you, what was the movie all about? You don't know, do you? You weren't watching, you weren't paying attention. And you say, well, how come you're asking that? Did you watch it? And she said, no, I wasn't watching. I was getting up and wandering around too. Is it any wonder that we can't explain our lives to ourselves? Someone asks you, what's your life all about? You don't know. You haven't been watching it. You've been bored. You've been excited about some sight going on outside the house. An accident happens. You go there. You look at that. You're going to have to understand what it means to go against your own nature and be watchful of what's going on inside of you. Watch the physical, watch the emotional, and you'll see great blockage to it. Nobody wants to get out of the flood. It's too easy to be carried. You're carried by the flood, and this is humanity. No work necessary. All I want to do when someone insults me is to get mad. That's no effort. That's easy. Anybody can get mad. Any stupid human being. Any human being can stay stupid. The desire of stupidity is so strong because it doesn't require you stepping outside of the flood and going against something hard. Please understand that freedom, deliverance, a new life, a new world, means always doing something difficult. And that difficulty consists of going against your traditional, habitual, stupid flood of thoughts and emotions. If you don't do it, you won't make it. If you do it, you can make it. You know, when you're on the bank looking down at the flood, you're no longer identified with it. That means you're no longer one with it. Therefore, you can see it. And when you see it, you no longer see yourself as being in it, but you used to be in it because you did identify with it. For example, you had all kinds of thoughts. I'm going to conquer this river, and I don't care how many rocks bump into me. I'm going to make $1 million. I'm going to become someone in this life. See, all this is talking to yourself. But when you finally get on the bank, you can see the folly of it. And this is what the whole secret of deliverance is. The whole secret of deliverance is to know simply how dumb you have always been, but didn't know it. Didn't admit it. Because your precious, darling vanity was in the way. Your feelings were in the way. And above all, you wanted to protect yourself, keep yourself feeling safe. Look, listen to this. You'll do anything to stay in the river in order to feel safe. You say, I'm going to stay where I am in order to feel safe, like being sarcastic, sneering at someone, or to be dangerous. I'm going to feel safe, but don't you know at the same time that you're not safe? Anytime you do anything or say anything to be safe, you're in danger. God does not have to think about being safe. He is safety. The Spirit of truth never thinks about danger in any way except as it can see it, understand it. Therefore, any attempt you do within the flood of the thought to feel secure, to feel right, is doomed to failure, and you pay the price for your lying. Method, technique. I want you to take this home with you in your mind or written down. Ask yourself, am I a problem to myself? Just ask. You can do it now. Am I a problem to myself? Now, only two possible answers. Don't you say maybe. That's lying already. That's evasion. Am I a problem to myself? If you say no, then what you should do is think of what a liar you are. Correct? That's what everybody does. I'm not a problem to myself. I'm a contributor. Look what I give to the world. Oh, the poison, sir or madam, you give to the world. You're so dumb. You're so self-destructive. Am I a problem to myself? Yes or no? An honest answer would always be yes. Well, are you not? Are you not troubled? You are worried, aren't you? You don't know how to think correctly and instantaneously toward a challenge from the outer world, do you? You know what you do? You dumbly think. Whenever you come to a crossroad, you dumbly think, and you always think from self-interest. How can I protect my precious little world, which is a miserable world? You don't use that because you want to kid yourself and thinking that's a happy world. You go up to the crossroad, and then you think, which is your problem. And as long as you think from yourself what you're doing, the self is always involved. And if you go right, you'll wish you'd gone left. If you go left, you wish you'd gone right. And you're always going to feel cheated. And you're always going to drive yourself crazy. How many of you drive yourself crazy? All of you raise your hand. You know that. Am I a problem to myself? Yes or no? If you say, yes, I am a problem to myself, this is still the level of thought, yes. This is still thinking, but it is right thinking. You are now redirecting the whole flood, the channel of your thoughts. You're redirecting your thought so that it goes into a right direction. The river gets tamed, and instead of destroying it, runs a Hoover Dam and generates electricity. It does good things instead of bad things. Start, therefore, to redirect the way your mind operates by over and over asking yourself that question. It's a very good question because it keeps you where the problem really is and forces you to face it each time. Am I a problem to myself? Yes. Now, you're going to have to go against your usual habits. How many of you feel persecuted? You know, how many of you are paranoid, persecuted people? Right? You know, people take advantage of you. You've never made it. You don't have to make it. You're always trying to do something stupid and unnecessary. You don't have to make it. Oh, I wish, you know what I wish? I'll tell you what I wish, then you'll know what I wish. I wish there were 100,000 businessmen here at the top today. I wish there were 100,000 business ladies, or anybody. I wish there were 200,000 people here. Why? Because I can look out at them, and you can look at them too when they come in the door, and you can see the buttons of the clubs they belong to and the medals they've won, and you can see the anxiety in their faces, huh? The buck private wants to become a corporal, the corporal, a sergeant, the sergeant, a lieutenant, on up. They all want to be 10-star generals. I just created a new rank. There are only they all want to become someone. We could tell them, couldn't we? Sir, miss, lady, you don't have to be who you think you have to be. You're setting up these idealistic images. That is what's making you a pained hypocrite. We'll show you how. You know, all you have to do is be real. You can start with this redirection of the thoughts that we talked about. You start thinking, oh, I'm a problem to myself. Already, you've cut out 10,000 of false enemies out there. No one to blame anymore. No one to think about getting revenge on. No more feeling bitter toward your ex-wife, ex-husband. No more of that at all. Am I a problem to myself? Yes, that is where I have to work. That's where I have to do some more right thinking. I've told you a certain law, and I'll repeat it to you. Very nice. If you will do one right thing for your authentic self-rescue, the next one will be waiting for you. If you will do the second one, the third one will be waiting for you. You go to the third, the fourth will be waiting for you. On and on. You'll feel the impulse, the right impulse to take the next step. But you have to do one thing right. You have to do one thing thoroughly. You have to stick with one little lesson. And I've just given you a marvelous one where you know that you are a problem to yourself. It is not that incident of 30 years ago that you're still ashamed of. It is not that rude clerk in the store. You know what is not the problem. Stick where it is, because you can be above all rude clerks, all your own rude flooding thoughts. You can be above everything, because the solution is where the problem is. You put the problem out there, you'll never find the solution because it's not there. The problem and the solution are both inside of you. You stick with that. You see one thing very clearly and try to see it with right emotion, and the right emotion will follow the right thought. See it so clearly, and this arouses, this is sort of a new phrase, I think. It's so good. Spiritual enthusiasm. How many of you can hardly wait to go faster? Is there someone here? You want to go? You don't want to live with yourself anymore, that old, negative, lying self. You want to go in another direction. You want to breathe the free air up there. That will happen if you take this one right step. Am I a problem to myself? Yes or no? Watch how lies try to interfere with the right answer. Watch how fearful lies, threatening lies, try to interpose, try to sneak in to prevent you from making the simple one-word answer, yes. Yes, I am a problem to myself. Watch how tricky you can be inside yourself. That in itself is the honesty and the power that finally pushes the flood, this negative flood, away from you. And little by little, you'll feel lighter. You really will. You feel lighter. And you look around and you can see the crazy world, but because you don't want anything from it anymore, there's no connection. You break the connection. The insane desires that we have toward the world is the chain. How many of you think you still have insane desires toward the world? You still want them? Whatever it might be. Ask truth. This should be your prayer. Ask truth to break that chain. And here's another thought you've had before, but oh, how nice. You'll wonder eventually how you could have been so dense, so dumb, as to ever throw your life away with those people, with those activities, with that folly, that foolishness, getting compelled, having an obsession to do something. Do you know people who have obsessions? They have to go and ride horses 3 hours a day. They have to collect Guatemala stamps. And if they get one that's pink instead of red, they tell the world. Believe me, life offers you something higher than that. Let's go after it. Can you think of anything worse than wanting to do good for yourself and having no idea of what it is? Right? Don't you do that all day long? Don't you make choices all day long based on your wish to do, now careful, to do what you assume, what you call is good for you? You had better start right now finding out what you call being good to yourself, doing the right thing, acquiring the right people, right acquisitions. Could it be that you have made a dreadful mistake in which you think that the things that are good for you are actually bad? All the propaganda that we have taken and swallowed from society, all the things we've been told are good for us, we automatically put the label good, slap it on it, and find out that it hasn't done a thing for us after all. Aren't you now, didn't you today look around for dozens of items which you said, it will be good for me if I acquire that, if I say that, do this. As a matter of fact, whether you are aware of it or not, your entire day and life is occupied by you always choosing what you assume will make you happy, free, excited, fulfilled, whatever. Right? Now, what if you're wrong about what is good for you? Don't you think you had better think right as I talk with you? Don't you think you had better search and see what you're calling good to see whether it might not be at all? Let me tell you, let me save you a lot of time and a lot of work. What you call good is with a small g, and it's not good at all. It is good for something that is false inside of you that you don't know, therefore you grab it, acquire it, say it, do it, think it, feel it, all because someone told you what would be good for you and you have not made correction. Now you know, right now, you know why you're an unhappy human being. Every one of you in this room. Of course you are. You're not happy.
How do you have the most incredible nerve? How can you say you're happy and content when you are actually terrified, which you are? You are terrified, aren't you? Now, if you're terrified, why do you continually going around giving yourself syrupy sentences all day long, telling yourself, well, it will turn better later on, or just wait, or I've just had a few bad breaks? You're just getting yourself stuck in your own syrup. And it gets a little harder to move every day, doesn't it? We'll get you out of that. See, here's the explanation so far of the mistake you're making in your life. And going along with your stupid friends. You go along with, you think you can hide your unhappiness and your frustration and your irritation. Where did you ever pick up the notion that you can hide it from yourself by going around with other people who are as irritable, as crabby, as unpleasant, as lost as you are? If there are 1,000 lost sheep in the field, there are 1,000 lost sheep in the field. No matter what one says to the other, that I'm getting comfort, I'm getting strength from being with the other 999. And all the 1,000 sheep in the field lie to each other. None of them has the real independence or the intelligence or a right search for goodness inside of them to say, just because I'm here with all these other miserable people, how does that make me any happier? A fact that you have got to get down right now and never forget it. As many times you hear it, please feel it, as well as hear it, see it, as well as take it into your intellect, which is this. It'll break the whole mess open and set you free. When you're one of the sheep out in the field, that is when you're going along with them, keeping your eyes closed to the fact that the whole herd of sheep, flock of sheep, is getting closer to the dark woods where the wolves are. When you're going that way, I want you to know that you don't know what is happening to you. You think it is good to identify with, be part of, join the multitude. Please write down a sentence. 3 words, 4 words. The multitude is mad. Crazy world. Why do you go along with that, pretending that all is well, when you can have authentic intelligence and start breaking away from the inner world, which will always be matched by the one out there, of course, and you can start either place? Why did you wait, ladies and gentlemen? Why did you wait so long to detach yourself from that unpleasant, dangerous person you used to run around with? Situation, habits, activities. Why did you wait for so long? You knew it was wrong. You felt it was wrong. And you loved the feeling. Because you see, you call it rewards, for example, when you feel superior to someone else. Oh, how you love to catch someone in a mistake, don't you? You know, you don't do that. You don't rob banks. You're a nice person. You don't rob banks. But you hate people. You don't commit some of the things that you see other people committing that you consider immoral. You consider bad. But you are a self-righteous religious hypocrite. No difference, is there? Is there any difference in the lunatics in the asylum? They all do different things expressing their lunacy, but they're all the same people inside the insane asylum. You want to do something about it, or don't you? If you want to do something about it, you have to listen and obey, and you can't obey yourself anymore. It does no good to lie anymore. Here in this room, we will tell you how to stop lying to yourself, because it is destroying you. Your unseen, unconscious. You don't want to see it. Lies are destroying you. The feeling of sarcasm. Take it, isolate it just for a minute. Put sarcasm underneath the microscope. You know what it means to be sarcastic? You know, to sneer, to hate someone, a mixture of several things that comes together, and you call it the word sarcasm. How do you feel when you're sarcastic towards someone else? Strike out at that. You have never asked yourself that, have you? Do it now. How do I actually feel at the moment of that sarcastic thought, that sarcastic feeling, or the remark? All goes together. All the parts of you go in to make that one sarcastic expression. How do you feel? You said at the moment you were sarcastic, that is good. You put a label, that is good to be sarcastic. I'm intelligent. I never do dumb things. I only do intelligent things. I do things that are good for me. Therefore, a person of my marvelous intelligence could never be sarcastic unless it is a good thing. Try sometime. Please make an effort to see you as you are, not as you lie and call yourself. See? You said it's a good thing to be sarcastic, a right thing, a necessary thing. I never do unnecessary things. I'm very economical and efficient in my living. Therefore, when I'm sarcastic, that is a good thing for me. You had better stop lying yourself all the way to the junkyard, because that's the direction you're going in unless you stop, and stop now. You've got a chance right now. Not tomorrow, not an hour from now. You've got a chance right now. It's given to you right now as I'm talking to you. You're hearing it. The truth is being given to you. What are you doing while I am giving you the truth? What are you doing? I know exactly what you're doing, but you don't. Because you don't understand the dungeon feelings that you have. You don't know your love for being stunned, for covering it up so you won't have to face anything. If you were able to look inside and see your sarcasms and your critical attitudes, the whole business, if you could see it all at once, you would be cured all at once. Oh, what you would do if you were cured, healed 100%, which could be done if you would do it. Oh, what a difference would happen to you when you went out that door and went back to your home, then went down to the office tomorrow, went out into the world with other people, went shopping, buying and selling, visiting people. Oh, what a difference. Shall I tell you what it would be? You wouldn't go in apprehension anymore to all the places you now go to in apprehension. Oh yes, another thing. You wouldn't go to 9 out of 10 of those places anymore. Because you have said that it's good to go there. This is a good place to be. All these excited people, you're saying, who have a plan, who have a purpose, they have something definite. They've got a program. They've got a program for getting rid of hunger in the world. They've got a program for being peace in the world. They've got a program for going to heaven. They've got a definite direction. That's what I want. That's why I go to the definite direction. How many of you have dizzy minds? Dizzy lives? Dizzy everything? It'd be very nice if you'd stop kidding yourself and get down to earth, because it is a dreadful thing, a horrible thing, to want what is good for you without knowing what it is. I'll tell you how to find out what is good for you. Drop all the lies you tell yourself. Drop all the trash you've accumulated. You will no longer judge what is good for you. You're not capable of it. Look at you. Look at you right now. Look at your guilt. Look at your fear of someone seeing through you, you big fakes. Come on, aren't you afraid someone will see? How many of you are good actors and actresses? How many of you are afraid someone's going to be smarter than your role and see through you? It happens all the time. Doesn't that make you nervous? The forced smile, whatever. Right now, you can be very quiet right now, and I will direct you in being that way, so as to give yourself a chance to get rid of your definitions of what is good and not excitedly go along with them and feel that you're losing a friend when you lose them. You're losing an enemy, not a friend. So see, now is the time. You felt very emotional for the last few minutes, haven't you? Sure you have. I can see your minds out there working. You keep your face a blank, but I can see your minds in back of it. If you just relax right now and go real slow, that will supply the necessary jolting change of pace in which something can trickle in past your unconscious barriers that you've set up, which you will feel. Now you feel what is good for you. All you were doing before is chattering, thinking, screaming, absolutely sure that the thing that is good for you is to go out to the races, any kind of races, auto races, horse races, whatever, boat races. The good thing is to go there, spend a lot of money for tickets, sitting there in the hot sun, screaming like idiots. Ever do that? Ever do that? Or were you a silent idiot at the races? This was your idea of what was good for you to spend the afternoon like that, right? What'd you come home to? The same house, the same quarreling people inside that house, the same worry over what was going to happen to you. Can you make it financially for another day? Looks like the world's going to collapse on top of you, right? And you have the nerve to say you had fun for the races, at the races. Why did you stay home and see where you really were? You've already forgotten the name of the man who won the race, haven't you? For heaven's sake. What do you care who won the race? You're losing your spirit. What do you care about all the screaming and the crowds and the soda pop and the hot dog? What do you care about that, man? Woman, wake up and see what you're doing right in the middle of misdoing it. And go on home. Otherwise, listen to this illustration. Imagine a submarine down in the ocean running around. And the captain has fallen sick, and he can't direct anymore. And all the crew inside the submarine, you know, ever been in a submarine way down deep inside? Can't see, the instruments have failed, and they don't know where they're going. They're going, but they don't know where. Sound like life, huh? Oh, here's all the crew. Something is happening to them, but they don't know what. How about that? Is something happening to you and you don't know what exactly? Come on. I know you have a stupid appointment book at home and you say, this is what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to go here. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to sell that. That's what you call doing. That's not doing anything real. That's simply activity. Financial activity, mental activity, physical activity. That's activity. Something, I'm not going to let you get away with this one. Something is happening to you and you don't know what it is, right? The men in the submarine down there, the submarine's going ahead. They don't know where they're going, left, right, up, down. They don't know whether there's another submarine that they're going to collide with or a big rock they're going to run into. They don't know what's going to happen to them. They may be going out to sea instead of going toward port. They don't know. Pretty scared, huh? You are pretty scared inside your own disabled submarine, aren't you? You know it's disabled. Can everyone listening to this talk admit, let's see you admit right now, absolutely, honestly, all fakers aside, can you take the one right step toward gaining real command of your life by knowing that you're going somewhere but you have no idea of what it is? I mean, your day unfolds, doesn't it? You wander around, you do different things, but you don't know what the direction is. You don't know whether you're going out to sea or into port, and you're pretty scared, aren't you? You know what those men down there did, unfortunately? They're just like human beings. They started fighting with each other. Let's look a little closer at that in a social situation. Husband and wife at home, quarreling, screaming at each other, blaming each other, fighting. And they have no conscience, of course, because here's the 4-year-old son, the 6-year-old daughter, and another 8-year-old son in the bedroom over there, hearing the parents scream at each other at the top of their voices, scared. See what people do to people? Maybe it was done to you, done to everybody one way or another. Here they are screaming at each other. Oh, by the way, they just come home from having fun at the races. Boy, wasn't that great? He finally won. This is the 10th time he tried to win the title, and I won. Wasn't that great? You don't care about anything like that at all. You just fake it because you don't know what to do, but fight because you don't know where you're going. And you have not had the intelligence enough as yet, instead of quarreling with your wife or with your husband, to find out what's wrong with the submarine equipment and fix it. Now, it is perfectly possible for any man or woman in that situation, if you're not fighting with someone else, you're fighting with yourself, of course. It is not only possible, but it is a marvelous opportunity ready for you right now, right tonight, right now, for you to learn about your condition, to learn about the fact that you used to rely on the captain, now he's disabled, which has to happen sooner or later anyway, because he's a false captain. You were following him, depending on him, and all of a sudden, what? Marriage broke up, an emotional crisis of some kind, and now you can't follow what you used to follow, which is your own false thinking thoughts. You can't follow your own preference for emotions like the emotion of feeling superior. What good does it do you to feel superior? If you felt superior to everyone else on earth, you would still be sick, right? How does that help you to feel superior to 4 billion other sick people? It's possible for you right now to begin to hear and understand spiritual instructions which will show you how to regain control of the submarine and head it toward home. Now, you may not consider yourself very intelligent, right? And honestly, you couldn't consider yourself very intelligent, because no intelligent person stays in the darkness and the terror of a submarine which is out of control because there's no controllers inside of it. No intelligent person ever keeps up doing what he has been doing. No intelligent person ever simply goes along with the fact of saying, I'm going somewhere, but I don't know what it is, so I guess I'll just give up, be defeated. You see defeated faces, don't you, of course? Or drink, or take drugs, or try to become someone. Please don't try to become someone in your eyes or the eyes of anyone else. I'm going to give you the most relieving statement you've heard in a month. You don't have to become anyone. You have to unbecome someone. You know that, don't you? You have to unbecome that nutty personality that has taken over your life, that is driving you crazy. It is not a shameful thing for you to suddenly realize that you have been a big fake. It is not shameful. It's not bad. You say it's bad. See, you're lying again. It is good to see that underneath your fake stern face, your fake joviality, it is good to see that you've been lost in the submarine and not knowing how to repair it. Now, let me tell you what happens down inside that wandering submarine with all those terrified people down there. They all set up little offices back in the different corners of the submarine and become experts on how to repair it.